New data released this week by the FBI shows a 50% increase in mass shootings from 2020 to 2021. That's just 1 year, and that trend is continuing. As of Tuesday, the Gun Violence Archive reports at least 213 mass shootings for this year. This year isn't even done yet. This is more mass shootings than days in 2022. Let's bring in former FBI agent Ross Rice into this conversation for more perspective. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure, Tia.
Let's first start out talking about that report. In just 1 year, a 50% increase in mass shootings. What do you attribute something like that to?
Well, I'm not an expert in sociology, but based on people that are and that study this, mental illness seems to be the driving factor. And if you look at 2020 with the onset of the pandemic, and all of the issues that went along with that carrying over to this year, I think it affected a lot of people in negative ways. And it just shows that, to me, mental illness is a societal issue in this country. It's going undiagnosed, untreated, and I think that's the root cause of a lot of these problems.
You know, we spoke about this as all of this was unraveling yesterday, and you talked about a commonality between many of these mass shooters. Now, we know that data released this week found a commonality in active shooter and mass shooting incidents. What are the common traits seen among those gunmen?
Well, you know, it's important to distinguish between mass shootings in general and school shootings in particular. With the shooting in Uvalde yesterday, the profile that has emerged of the shooter fits perfectly with the profile that the FBI developed starting 20 years ago after Columbine. You have a minor, or in this case he had just turned 18, resident of the community, former student in that district. I don't know if he ever went to that school or not. And he apparently had social media posts indicating what he was going to do. And those posts went unnoticed or unresponded to by authorities. We don't know yet. That's going to be part of the investigation. But certainly for someone to go into an elementary school and shoot up a room full of 9- and 10-year-olds, there has to be a degree of mental illness involved in that. And again, I'm not saying that from a doctor or medical standpoint, but just common sense would tell you that.
Now let's talk about this part. The FBI has established a profile of a mass shooter. What are the signs that we should all be looking out for? And then, for example, you talked about that social media presence. There were people that saw some of that stuff out there. When should people consider actually going to law enforcement?
Immediately. Now, again, I don't know if people saw his post in Texas before the shooting or if that was discovered after the fact. We'll have to wait and see what the investigation reveals. But you know, at this point in time, if somebody is making a threat like that, you have to take it seriously. The stakes are just too high, and a lot of times shootings like this, like a lot of crimes, they're preceded with social media posts, with comments to other people, with stark, dramatic changes in the person's personality, their activities, their behavior. And that should be a warning sign to people that know them, to friends, to family, to neighbors, to contact the police. And I can tell you that law enforcement doesn't take this lightly.
No.
Yeah.
And you can't, especially given the circumstances in this day and age that we're living. Former FBI agent Ross Rice, it's always a pleasure to have you joining us.